I wanted to show a couple small things today real quick. I got a lot going on inside the computer. I'm always working with sound, like not just the drums, but like me and my family, we're always talking about sounds, you know, audio stuff. It's crazy, the weird stuff we talk about if you were to come here and hear our conversations. But with the drums themselves, I'm always trying to improve my sound. What I want to do in my videos is try and make it so I'm not just playing drums to a song. I want to blend them in with the song as if I am the drummer in that band on that recording. That's usually what I try and do. Now, I grew up in the 80s, and if you go back to the early 80s, you know, I was listening to thrash and metal and stuff like that, and all that stuff was underground. It's really hard to understand unless you were there. You couldn't really find a lot of this music. You'd have to have like a bootleg that somebody brought an actual like cassette player into like a local gig, you know, and listen to that. Even back with Metallica in the day, you know, they had lots of bootlegs, and these people were not famous. You didn't go into like record stores and buy these things. But when you did find something like on a cassette, it sounded like it was in somebody's room or garage. These people had no money. The metal bands had like no money because it was all like underground. So the recordings were like so bad. And I'm not saying you can't get a good recording in a garage. You can. It takes a lot of work. And back then, you know, we had like, you know, 4-track cassette decks and stuff. We even had one. We used two, and we would be bouncing tracks because we didn't have enough tracks, so we'd be bouncing them, and next thing you know, we're using, you know, 12 tracks in a 4-track because they're bounced, but now you can't mix it no more. But then you look at people like Eurythmics or Duran Duran, you know, stuff like that. They had big money. And I shouldn't compare those two types of music, metal and like the pop of the day, but you can tell when they had the record label backing them with all that money, they can get a real studio, and not just a real studio, a good studio. Those sounds are clean and crisp the way they should be. And it was at the same time where the metal bands sounded like garbage. But when you go to a real studio, they have, you know, the preamps, they're like $50,000 and up, and they're like stacks of them. They have like Neumann microphones, you know, those are like 20 grand and up. They have the really expensive, good equipment, but they also know how to use it. You're paying for the knowledge of the engineer as well as the equipment. But back in the day, you know, the metal guys were just like, hey, let's just get this out there. It was garbage. Let's put tons of reverb on the voice and let it go. And if you listen to a lot of that stuff, I'll see if I can find some samples on the internet. You'll be like, what the heck is going on here?
I can feel it in my veins. It's like fire. Metallic buzz, fuck emotions. Stone with steel, purple surge. Time to sun, time is wasted.
And you can tell that's what's happening. We used to do the same thing. We would record in my garage on a 4-track. Me and Jamie, the guy, went and recorded a band on a 4-track in somebody's garage. I would love to hear that to see how it came out. I remember at that particular point in time, it was okay. But I wanted to say all that because now I don't have any outboard equipment here. The only outboard thing I have is the box that the microphones plug into. Everything is in this computer. Every single thing is in the computer. Now, you really kind of can't compare the laptop to all that expensive outboard stuff. There's a gigantic difference in sound. However, in the modern age, we're in 2024 now, you can get away with a lot with this computer. And in the digital world, I guarantee, you know, when you're listening to most music, it's made in somebody's home studio somewhere. If you have the money of a record company and you went to a real studio, you'll see the difference. It's a gigantic difference, even today with all this modern stuff. But all I have is the computer. So I wanted to show what the drums really sound like right now, because this will change. I'm always working on the sound. It's going to change. You can see this new microphone right here. It's a fake 57. It's a Pyle PDMC, I don't know the number on it, but it's not even hooked up yet. I'm waiting for cables. I've also got a close mic'd hi-hat mic. This is a close mic'd ride. I've been playing with the overheads. They're in an XY right now. I've played with RRTF and separated them, you know, spaced pair. I'm always moving the mics and playing with stuff, not the toms. I'm always trying to improve the sound with the software and stuff. Like how, I really love to learn this stuff. I would love to learn mastering next. So I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I want to show what the drums sound like now. Now I know the GoPro isn't going to be the best sounding thing, and if I hit this, it's really going to overload it and cut everything down. I'll try not to hit this right here. I'll try just to do the drums and some cymbals. But I want to show with just the laptop the sound I'm getting out of this thing. And this thing sounds great by itself. I love this drum set. I'm having so much fun with this new drum set. And I call it new, but it's actually older than my old one. This is an early 80s Pearl Export. I love this thing. This thing sounds great. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play a little bit of drums, and then I'll repeat that, but I'll put the sound from the computer over it so you can see what's going on. So I hope you enjoyed that little demo. I'm just documenting my stuff and I throw it on the internet. Just, you know, I could look back on stuff and go, oh, that's pretty funny. I didn't know what I was doing back then.